Can everybody hear me well without the microphone? A little louder. Okay. So your attention is one of the most important abilities that you have at your disposal. We could even say that it's one of your superpowers, because your attention influences and determines several really important aspects of your work and of your life. First, your performance. If, for example, you're able to work and you're really focused, engaged, and you're not having too many distractions, then the quality of that work will tend to be much better. You'll make less mistakes, you'll finish faster, the quality of your work will be good. But if you're having constant distractions or your mind is not fully there in what you're doing, then obviously that performance won't be as good. Secondly, your capacity to manage stressful situations. If you are in a difficult spot and you're not fully present, you're not really paying attention to what is happening around you and also within you in terms of your thoughts, your emotions, then you're likely to act in a way that is less appropriate, perhaps in a more impulsive way, and so on. Secondly, or thirdly, your resilience is also determined by how present you are in the moment. To the degree that you're more present, it's having like a reset button that allows you to let go of what happened before, that negative situation, that what that person said, and let go of that tension and stress. Also, your capacity to manage your own emotions depends a lot on how present you are in the moment or not. And if you are in a difficult situation, having a tense argument, and you're not fully present, if you are in automatic pilot, then you are far more likely to react rather than respond. Your ability to be empathetic with other people also depends on how present you are. If somebody is speaking to you but you're not truly or 100% listening, that empathy just won't flow. And finally, as you will notice with a couple of exercises that we're going to guide during this presentation, the degree of well-being that you experience, physical, mental, and emotional, depends a lot on how present or not you are. You actually tend to feel much better the more present you are. So that attention is paramount. But the problem is, as you may have gathered, you may have noticed that frequently we are not fully present to what we're doing. And let me explain that with the example of when you're having a shower. I don't know if you have noticed that sometimes you're having a shower and your mind is all over the place. You're thinking, gosh, I have to leave really soon, or I forgot to pay this bill and now it's overdue, and the house needs painting, and the kids and the homework and so on. And you finish your shower and you realize that your mind was everywhere except in the moment of having a shower. And having a shower is really nice, isn't it? But you don't experience the temperature of the water, the sponge, the texture of the soap, and so on. And so you're not truly there in that experience, and you miss it. And we just don't do this only when we are having a shower. We do this all the time. When we're walking, when we're eating, when we're driving, which is really dangerous. You're driving this machinery that sometimes weighs more than a ton, and you're not fully there. And also, we do this a lot as well when other people are speaking to us. We sometimes don't pay full attention to what they're saying. So, from the moment that you wake up till the moment that you go to sleep, there is this constant mental chit-chat, all this constant mental activity. And I'm not saying, obviously, that thinking is wrong. No, that's what you have the brain for. And please keep using it in that way, you know. But so, for example, thinking, where did I leave my keys? Or where am I going to go on holidays? Or how am I going to solve this problem at work? That is absolutely fine. You know, you're using your brain for, in a practical way with a purpose. The problem, and what I'm referring to, is when the mind is wandering on its own without any practical purpose and without your conscious presence. And it is a bit like having a parrot inside your head, you know, that's going rah, 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 all the time on its own. And you might be thinking, yeah, okay, it makes sense, but nothing has happened so far, you know. I've had showers and I'm thinking about all sorts of things, and I've been eating and driving, and luckily I haven't choked or I haven't had any accidents. So what's the problem, Hector? You're making a big deal. Well, let's see if it has consequences or not. So I was saying that frequently our attention is not in the present. And if it's not in the present, then where is it? Well, many times, that attention is in the past. And we're not so much reminiscing about, you know, your good memories and that nice holiday that you had in, I don't know, Cancun or whatever. You tend to remember mostly negative events. You know, what this person said to you and what you should have said, and what the opposing counsel did this and did that, and how dare he, and all that. And when we are reliving mentally these situations, then we experience again the emotions associated with those events, which can be anger, guilt, resentment, sadness, depression, and so on, right? And many times our attention goes to the future, and the mind is wandering in the future. And so we create all these scenarios, and they, in the same way as in the past, is not so much the good memories and the good things that, you know, or the good things that will happen to you in the future, but it's like, oh no, how are these things going to turn out, and what happens if they let me go, or I don't have enough money, and so on. And therefore, this creates worry, anxiety, fear, tension, stress, and so on. So this habit of the mind just wandering all over the place is not as harmless as we would think it is initially. It does have a consequence. Now, a nice way to illustrate it is with this cartoon. Those of you that have dogs know that, you know, your dog, your cat, is instinctively, you know, present. And if you take your dog to the park, it may be the 10,000th time that you've taken your dog to the park, but the dog will be like, we're out there, wonderful, you know, and the dog will be really, you can see that the dog is really there, really seeing, sniffing, moving the tail, and the dog is so happy, you know. So in this cartoon, the dog is so much in his senses that he's reflecting the fact that it's a nice day in the park. But what do we do in comparison? You know? So this man is thinking, my computer is broken and I have to get a new one, and my problems with my partner, and I don't know if we'll have money for holidays, and so on. So the experience of being in the park is exactly the same physically for both the dog and the man. But who's having a good time and who's not? And what is the difference? You know, the difference is, where is the attention? Animals naturally are fully present, and we are not. And because of that, we create a lot of suffering and unhappiness for ourselves. In 2010, a study made by a few researchers in Harvard was published. And these researchers try to investigate how present or not we are on a daily basis. Now, I would like to get an idea from you what percentage of the time you think we are present or not. So, in a scale of 0 to 100, you know, how much time do you think we are not fully present? Give me a figure. 90%? 40? Okay. Well, whenever I ask this question, the answer goes normally between 70 and 100%. No? But these researchers found, and maybe because of the way they phrased the question, that the average for them was 47%, which is lower, you know, for some of us. But if you look at it, it's still really high. You know, it means that if you're awake, let's say 16 hours a day, then 8 of those hours, your attention is elsewhere. You're not fully there in the moment. So that's a lot. And if you want to look at it in a more tragic way, if you live 80 years, then for nearly 40 of those, you were not in the moment in what you're doing. That's a huge waste of life. These researchers also associated how happy or unhappy people felt when their attention was elsewhere, when they were thinking about something different than what they were doing. And they found out that most of the time people said that they felt more unhappy, more dissatisfied in those moments. And we can now understand why. Because the mind tends to create suffering, and we tend to suffer and create problems for ourselves when we're not fully present. So just taking this statistic to work, you know, it means that on average, only 53% of your time you're truly focused on what you're doing. That means that there's a lot of room for improvement as well. Now, I trust you're not just paying 53% of your attention all the time to me during this presentation. Okay. Now, so not being fully present has consequences, but I want to just mention a few more. When you are constantly, you know, the mind is wandering and you're not fully there, life feels a lot more stressful and frantic. You also make more mistakes, you know, and you're typing an email talking badly about somebody, and then you send that email to that person because you're not paying attention. Or you close your car, and then you start walking, and then 2 blocks later you start thinking, did I close my car? Did I? Maybe I didn't. And then you have to go back because you did close your car, but we're not being conscious of that moment. And so it becomes a very inefficient way of living and of working as well. As I said earlier, when you are in a difficult situation and maybe you're having an argument or you're in a tense moment, then if you're not present, then it's more likely that you will react and say or do something that is not appropriate, rather than respond, you know, in a pathetic way or empathic way. And obviously, all of this has an impact on the results of your organization or your well-being, your family, and so on. So, having said all this, what is mindfulness? Well, in order to build a little bit of suspense, I'd like to mention first of all what mindfulness is not, because there are a number of stereotypes and false ideas and correct ones about what mindfulness is. Firstly, it's not something okay? It's not something like, let's take it easy, brother, and let's do it everything slowly, and then everything will be fine. It's not a new age practice at all. It's something very serious, very well documented from a scientific point of view. It's not Buddhism in disguise either. There are certainly certain practices that have been taken out of Buddhist exercises and practices, but mindfulness, as has become popular, is totally secular. It doesn't have any religious or spiritual connotations. Mindfulness is not relaxation as well. Relaxation comes naturally as a result of this practice, but the objective and the purpose of mindfulness is way more profound and vaster than just relaxation. And lastly, you'll be happy to hear that to practice mindfulness, you don't have to get on top of your desk, be on a lotus position, and so on, and be in a funny posture. Okay? So, what is mindfulness? Well, there are different definitions, ones that are more technical than others, but this one is particularly good and good enough for our purposes. It's simply the ability to be fully present, to pay attention to what is going on, not just around you, but also inside you, in terms of your thoughts, your emotions, your body, because that aspect of looking what is happening within you is also very important in terms of helping you to manage yourself appropriately and to respond adequately to any given situation. So, if you forget that definition, the ability to be fully present, then this image will help you. Because it's like a form of mental training, which in the first instance helps you to strengthen that capacity to be fully present. Okay? So it's a training that is very practical, very down to earth, with a very little bit of theory. It's positive, it's a very gentle training that doesn't have any dramas. It's not coercive. It's easy for people to learn as well. Even kids, 3-4-year-olds can start learning and practicing mindfulness. It does require a little bit of practice, of daily practice, in order to bear fruit. But you don't have to practice an hour every day in order to start gaining from it. Even 5-10 minutes. It is a bit like physical exercise. If you don't go regularly to the gym, you don't see benefits. So same with mindfulness. And lastly, it's backed by over 6,000 scientific studies by now. So it's very well proven that this works, with even very serious studies using magnetic resonance imaging, cortisol levels in the blood, and so on. Now, you may be thinking, well, sounds good, but does it work? Let me tell you quickly just 3 different case studies using to test whether mindfulness really works or not. Now, imagine that you come into a room and there are these 2 people waiting for you with a recorder and an audio recorder. And they ask you to prepare a little presentation on why you're the best candidate for a certain position. So they give you pen and paper. After 2 or 3 minutes, they say, okay, please start, and they take the paper away from you. And then you have these 5 minutes in which you have to explain your abilities and why you're the best. And while you're talking, these 2 judges are instructed not to show any empathy. They're actually glaring at you, and they don't nod, they don't smile, no empathy whatsoever. If you don't use up your 5 minutes, they urge you to continue and they force you. Then after those initial 5 minutes, then comes the second part of the test, where you're asked to count backwards from a number like 1022 in multiples of 13. Okay? And you have to do it fast, and these people are telling you, no, faster, faster. And you make an error, and you have to go back to the beginning. So it's a hell of a test. I just wouldn't like to do that, And this is a test that is called the Trier Social Stress Test, and it has been developed by the University of Trier in Germany, specifically to induce a stress reaction. You know, the kind of stress that we experience when we are being judged, when we are being criticized, or when we are being rejected. And it's awful. You know? So this test has been applied to see, well, what difference does mindfulness do? And it has been found out, for example, among teachers, that the more time somebody has been practicing mindfulness, then their recovery is actually faster. Their blood pressure drops faster the more time these people have been practicing mindfulness. And then they also replicated these studies with long-term mindfulness practitioners, people that have, logged in on average, let's say 9,000 hours of practice, so quite a lot of practice. And with these people, they found out that the cortisol levels, this hormone that we segregate when we are stressed, the cortisol levels raised less than in the people that are just beginning to practice. And also, they perceived this test from hell as less stressful as well. So they were able to see things with greater equanimity as well. So that's one case study. The other one, there has been a number of studies that have been designed to test whether you are more present and you're able to focus a lot more. And I won't go into the details of these tests because they're not as interesting as this other one that I just told you. But it has been found, repeated studies, that you're able to have attention that is a lot more stable, you're a lot more focused, and your propensity to be distracted also goes down. And lastly, a number of studies have been done to see the changes that mindfulness brings on the brain. And for example, in 2014, a study was published that reviewed 21 different studies using magnetic resonance imaging. That's a hard word for me to pronounce. And it was found that on a consistent basis, there were changes in either in the activation of certain areas or in the gray matter concentration in areas of the brain associated with self-regulation, focus, memory, learning, resilience, analytical thinking, and so on. So this practice actually changes your brain for good. Okay? Now, who's practicing mindfulness? Just so that you know that if you decide to start practicing mindfulness, you'll be in good company. There are a number of law firms that I found that they've either are beginning to have programs for their employees, or at least they've had an initial training in terms of mindfulness. A number of corporate organizations as well, they have, like these companies have very well established mindfulness programs for their employees. And as you can see, in very different sectors, technology, banks, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and so on. A number of CEOs, of chairmen are already practicing mindfulness as well. And I would like to mention this because, these people are obviously extremely, extremely busy, and it's not like they have an hour to practice. And even if they practice a little bit, it's helping them to be better leaders, to take better decisions, to recover from stress, and so on. A number of athletes as well, like the Seattle Seahawks, mindfulness is one of their values as a team. Schools, my niece lives in Boulder, and she has been practicing, she's now 9 years old, and she has been practicing mindfulness since she was 5. Now, I would have loved to start practicing mindfulness since that age. I wouldn't have finished as traumatized as I did after, school and college. A number of medical centers and hospitals as well, and even in the army and the police. This is beginning to be brought into these organizations. Now, okay, so there is some evidence that it works, but how does it translate into actual results when you bring it into a corporate organization or a law firm? Well, General Mills is the company that is behind a lot of processed foods, Nature Valley, Häagen-Dazs, Betty Crocker, and so on. They have a fairly well developed mindfulness program, and they measured some of the results that this program has brought for them. And for example, for the participants that have been in the program, they've reported that the ability to focus has increased by almost 50%. Also, their personal productivity and the ability to prioritize has gone up, and the satisfaction of employees and the performance under pressure has also increased. SAP, this German and American software company, has also a pretty big mindfulness program, and the results show that their employee engagement has gone up. The trust that they have on their leaders has also increased, and the number of days that people have missed due to stress, absenteeism, has gone down. And that's a good German company. They've measured the results, and the result of the return of investment is actually over 200%. I don't have the specific figure, but this program is actually making them money. And I was very happy to find that there has been a little study, the first study that has been done about mindfulness among lawyers. And this was done it was a program where 46 lawyers participated. They were recruited through the National Association of Women's Lawyers. And this study found that this little 8-week program that the lawyers took resulted in an increase of 6% on the job effectiveness, but most importantly, depression, anxiety, and stress went down significantly, on average by 30%. Just very quickly, also a study done by leaders in corporate settings. All of them that went through a very short workshop of 4 days of mindfulness training, they reported that their capacity to innovate, their ability to listen and to think strategically increased. And I'd like to mention real fast about a quote by Peter Drucker, who is the person, this thinker that really revolutionized the way we think about business administration. And he said, you cannot manage other people unless you manage yourself first. And that is what mindfulness helps you to do, to manage yourself better. And I'm going to skip this slide about the call center, also showing that even operators in call centers are actually feeling less stressed, with less anxiety and burnout, and the employee satisfaction has gone up through a little bit of mindfulness training. So this practice, I trust I have gathered a little bit of your interest, and you may give it a try, because it can certainly help you to become not only on a professional basis a better lawyer, but also a happier human being. Okay? So with that, all of this being said, I'd like to just for us to practice a little exercise now. Are you okay with that? Wonderful. So please sit comfortably and just make sure that your back is straight and that your head is not leaning forward or backwards, so that you don't make the muscles of your neck work harder than they have to. And I invite you to close your eyes, just so that you can focus a little better on what we are going to do. 1, So first, take a moment to notice, how does it feel, the contact of your body against the chair? And how does the weight of your body feel against the chair? Very good. Now, bring your attention to your hands and simply notice the sensations in your hands. Just see what you can discover. You may notice, for example, the contact of your hands against your legs or the desk. Or you may notice heat, cold, tingling, vibration, tension. Whatever you're noticing is absolutely fine. No need to change the sensations. The important thing is that you're bringing your full attention to just notice what is going on. And now that same attention, bring it to your feet. And in the same way, just bring a sense of curiosity to see, what can I perceive in my feet right now? What sensations are there? No need to change anything. Simply notice. Now bring that attention to your face. And now to your neck and shoulders. Can you notice any tension there? If so, just see if you can ask the muscles of the neck and shoulders to relax, to let go of that tension there, to let it drop. Lastly, bring your attention to your breath. And just notice how it feels to breathe in and how it feels to breathe out. You don't need to change how you're breathing. You don't need to make it deeper or slower. Just as it is absolutely fine. Simply bring all your attention to your breath as if it was the very first time that you're noticing that you're breathing. Very good. Now, take a deep breath. And open your eyes. One. So, thank you very much. In this address here, I've left a PDF with a few resources in case you want to read more. There's a number of books articles, apps, websites that you can consult. Okay, and there are my contact details as well. So thank you very much. I think I took a little bit of extra time, so
That's okay. I can talk fast.